Hello friends, welcome back. So we were discussing about group communication. Today I will talk about some other aspects of group communication. Previously we talked about kinesthetics, that how body language plays a very important role in communication, that without using words, how we through our body gestures and facial muscles we tend to express our emotions without uttering a word. Continuing with the same aspect, today I will discuss about another aspect of non-verbal communication, that is proxemics. Proxemics refers to the use of distance in non-verbal communication. So, it is a study of how space and distance influence communication. We create a space around ourselves, or we try to use the space around ourselves to communicate the message to the other person in some or the other way. So, it is about that how the amount of space we occupy or demonstrate using communication. For instance, if I say that I like Priyanka a lot and she is very close to me. Now, close to me means here that definitely me and Priyanka are very good friends, very close friends. But when we are using about the distance metaphor or the space metaphor in proxemics as non-verbal communication, it actually means that there is a very strong relationship between two people, no matter what the other person is in the other part of the world. So, this is proxemics, where distance metaphor or space metaphor is actually described or used to enhance communication. So, proxemics uses distance metaphor to describe human relationships. That means how we exemplify human relationships based on or demonstration of space. Now, when we are talking about proxemics, Edward T. Hall has also classified the significance of space in communication into 4 zones. It is not that we are standing in a room and the whole space we are demonstrating. It is actually about that when we are maintaining a level of relationship with the other person, then what is the relationship? That distance will help us to define the relationship between two people, whether it is very close, whether it is acquainted, or it is just a matter of a distance when two people are talking at professional level and we are just delivering lectures or speeches to each other. So, Edward T. Hall has identified 4 zones where proxemics has been defined. So, he has talked about first zone as intimate zone, personal zone, social zone and public zone. Now, in all these 4 zones, Edward T. Hall has talked about the distance, the amount of distance in feet or inches we maintain has been defined, which defines human relationships. So, if we talk about intimate zone, as the term implies, it is actually used for embracing, touching or whispering or hugging the person or any kid whom we love a lot. So, this zone extends from 0 to 8 inches. That means the distance between two people who have intimate relationship is very less. There is no space between two people and there is some kind of loving touch between two people. So, this is the intimate zone, and actually when we are talking about intimate zone, it is actually a personal space where two people will not like any third person is encroaching or intruding that space between two intimate people. So, this is intimate zone, which is very much personal or is a personal space for two people. The other is personal zone. It is again that how two good friends are talking to each other, maybe at workplace or in any social group. When two people are good friends, they have some kind of personal touch in their relationships and they will also enjoy each other company. So, when we are talking about personal zone in terms of proxemics, it is for interaction among good friends or family. It is about that the relationship is more than acquaintance and the zone extends from 1.5 to 5 feet. Again, intimate zone and personal zone, they are actually personal space where people will experience lot of anxiety and discomfort if any third person tries to encroach that space. So, intimate zone and personal zone are very much personal in nature. The other is social zone. This zone is used for interaction among acquaintance. For example, it can be a neighbor, or it can be any employee or colleague who is working in a different department of the same organization, and we are meeting for some specific purpose. So, this is social zone, or it can be from the professional point of view, it can be about how people interact in a very professional manner to meet the professional goals. So, the social zone extends from 5 to 7 feet, where this space is also reserved for new form of relationships, new form of acquaintances, and as well as for strangers. And the last zone is public zone. This zone is used for public speaking or delivering lectures or speeches, and this zone extends from 12 to 25 feet. For example, any higher authority who is addressing a large number of professional group, then there is lot of distance between that authority and the other and the professional colleagues. So, this is a public zone. It is used in for public interest at how to convey a big message to the larger group of people. So, this is how proxemics is been defined in non-verbal communication, that to what extent and what kind of physical distance is being maintained between two people, that will define the quality of the relationship, that is if it is intimate, if it is personal, if it is social, or it is public zone. So, distance is the metaphor to define or describe human relationships. Now, based on this diagram, we can easily understand that how a proxemics or distance metaphor has been used based on physical distance. It is for intimate zone, it is very less, it is 0 to 18 inches. If it is personal zone, it is 1.5 to 5 feet, and if it is social zone, it is 5 to 7 feet, and if it is public zone, then it is beyond 7 feet. So, this is how proxemics has been defined. We can have a look at this slide also, where all these three pictures are talking about different kind of zones: intimate zones, public zone, and social zone. So, we can easily understand that what is the physical proximity between two people even when the zones are being classified by Edward T. Hall. So, based on these pictures, we can easily understand that in every picture what kind of relationship exists among people based on proxemics. So, this is the power, this is a strength of non-verbal communication. Next is chronomics. It is another form of non-verbal communication where time is used to define relationships. So, it is the role of time in communication, that in what time we are giving an appropriate or inappropriate reaction, which will not only define conflicts, which it will also define relationship with the other person in a particular situation. So, a person's perception and values placed on time plays a considerable role in the communication process. Just now I said that in what time we are giving reaction to the situation, or in what time our reaction will either reconcile or it will create a conflict. So, this is chronomics, the use of time or significance of time in communication. So, the use of time can affect lifestyle, personal relationships, and work life as well. That means, what to be said in a particular moment will define an individual's capability to communicate. Now, this communication can be in form of verbal message or it can be non-verbal message. So, time perceptions include punctuality, interactions, and willingness to wait. For instance, any employee who comes for the meeting very late or who has a tendency to attend meetings very late, then that perception of time for that person and perception of that individual in that particular moment about of other people will define an individual's intention, that whether his intents are clear or not clear to contribute to the meeting or not to contribute to the meeting. So, time factor plays a major role in communication. So, Thomas J. Bruno, he was a professor of communication. He has worked on non-verbal communication, interpersonal communication, and intercultural communications, and coined the term chronomics, because according to Bruno, when we are talking about role of time or perception of time in communication, then some cultural factors also play a role. We tend to embed ourselves with the perception of time based on the culture, that what goes in a particular culture we also abide unconsciously with the same pattern. So, chronomics is about function of time in human interaction. So, time can be used as an indicator of status. For example, in most companies, the boss can interrupt progress to hold an impromptu meeting in the middle of the work days. That happens, that maybe the boss or any higher authority will call an impromptu meeting to discuss some agenda, and that will hamper the progress of the other group members or other employees of the organization. On the other way, what happens, maybe one employee will find lot of difficulty to express that he needs some appointment to discuss something important with the boss, and he will try to use that time in a very appropriate manner, that how to find time with the boss. So, two situations are there, and in both the situations we can understand that how the use of time by a particular person in a particular situation will define relationships or communication. So, time can be used as an indicator of the status, whether it is the boss or an employee, or the boss is using time in an appropriate manner or not. So, the way in which different cultures perceive time can influence communication as well. So, we can say that the right drive at the right time may bring laurels, whereas an untimely initiative may evolve harsh criticism. Any boss calling for impromptu meeting can also call or invite or evoke harsh criticism, because all the progress has been hampered by the boss unconsciously or consciously, or it can be other way round as well. So, this is chronomics, that how time plays a major role in defining relationships and work. Now, Bruno has also talked about two types of time, monochronic and polychronic. These two terms have been used by Bruno to define the role of culture in time communication, that is role of culture in chronomics, that in some cultures time is very important, it is tangible, it is wasted and it is used as well. Whereas, in some cultures time has no significance, people will not mind reaching to some venue very late, or they are just engrossed in any activity so much deep that even if they want to shift to the next schedule, they will not find it difficulty that they have joined the next schedule very late. So, this is monochronic and polychronic time. So, according to Bruno, monochronic time system means that things are done one at a time. That means there is no shuffling between one task to the another, and only one task is assigned in one time to achieve maximum precision. So, time is segmented into small precise units, and under this system time is scheduled, arranged and managed. That means people with this monochronic time culture, they follow a calendar, they follow some rules for following the time. So, this is monochronic time, that means one thing at a time. So, monochronic cultures play a paramount value on schedule, task and getting the job done, because time is a constraint for them. They will experience that time is something that can be filled, it is an asset, it is either used or it is wasted. So, this is the culture of monochronic time culture. So, in monochronic culture such as in American culture, time is tangible and viewed as a commodity where time is money and time is wasted. That means, if it is being used appropriately, it is money, and because precision is required, and if it is not used appropriately, then time is wasted. So, monochronic time orientation is very prominent in North European cultures, Italy, Greece, Spain, England and Scandinavian countries. So, these are the examples of cultural factors when we are talking about chronomics, that how time is perceived by people in different cultures, that they would mind if time has been wasted. The other is polychronic time. Polychronic time is where several things can be done at once and wider view of time is exhibited, and time is perceived in large fluid sections. Large fluid sections here means that time is instrumental, that if we have not used this time, we can continue in the next hour. So, it is in flow, it is a fluid section, that we can divide time in several ways and we can get the task done. But when this kind of culture is prevalent in any organization or in any country, then time is also wasted. There is lack of precision because the goals are not achieved under time or scheduled time. So, polychronic cultures are much less focused on the preciseness of accounting of time, because they are not valuing time as money, but They are wasting also, and at the same time there is lack of precision in performing the tasks done. Whereas polychronic culture also focus more on tradition and relationships rather than on tasks. That means they are more into explaining things while being relationship oriented than using time to get the job done. So, this is the cultural impact on people, that how they perceive time when it comes to communication. Some examples of polychronic cultures can be Latin American, African, Arab countries, South Asian and Native American cultures, where time is not perceived as money. Polychronic societies also have no problem being late for an appointment if they are deeply focused on some work or in a meeting that ran past schedule, because the concept of time is fluid and can easily expand or contract as need to be. That is what I said, that for polychronic cultures time is instrumental. If one thing cannot be achieved in one particular time, then they can expand or contract that task as well as time accordingly. So, that means people focus more on their comfort zone than focusing on that time is money. It is their perception. So, we cannot change the cultural perceptions in one go. It is all about that how a person embed himself or herself in that kind of culture. So, basically it is about that people focus more on relationship than task, and they can expand on contract the time zones as per their convenience. As a result, polychronic cultures have much less formal perception of time, and they are not ruled by precise calendars and schedules like that of monochronic cultures, where they follow rules and schedules and calendars in a very precise and strict manner, which is completely missing in polychronic cultures. So, this is the way when we are intruded or we are being exposed to another new cultures, then all these factors play a major role when we are talking about non-verbal communication. So, when we are talking about chronomics, then culture also plays a major role, that in what kind of culture people consider time and how it influences communication. These are the predictable patterns between cultures with different time systems, that is difference between monochronic and polychronic. That means monochronic people do one thing at a time, they concentrate on a task set before them, consider time commitments, that means they meet the deadlines and then they achieve the task done. They are committed to the job and end results, because time is money, they have a schedule. So, they will try to be more committed to perform a task in a particular frame of time. They dedicate themselves to those plans, they are more concerned with privacy and individual ownership. That means they consider their time as important and they consider the other person's time also very important, and they try to maintain that privacy, that we have to work while respecting the time zone of each person, so that the task can be performed and task can be met well in time. They emphasize prompt time recognition regardless of relationship and circumstances. That means that when the person is not coming to for the work or for any task well on time, it is being identified, it is being recognized that that one particular person was not on time. So, the time zones or time is being recognized for each and every person in the group, and have strong tendency to build temporary practical relationships. Since time is very important for monochronic cultures, so they maintain the relationship, but while being within the time frame. Whereas polychronic people, they do many things at once. That means they believe in multitasking. They concentrate on an event happening around them. That means if they are in a particular moment, they will just think about that. They do not have any plan, they do not have any calendar to use that time in a very appropriate or scheduled manner. They consider objectives seriously, no doubt they consider the objective seriously, but for them time is fluid, it is flowing for them and they can contract and expand as per their comfort zone. They are committed to people and relationships. That means when they are indulged in a task, they are performing the task no doubt, but at the same time high priority is that they are maintaining relationship with the people no matter how much time they have used to perform the task. They change plans often and easily. Definitely it is obvious that when the time zone or time precision is lacking in polychronic cultures, then they tend to change the plans, either they are expanding or they are they are trying to adjust their plans with some other time zones. They are more concerned with community and shared connections. They emphasize response based on nature of relationships and circumstances, where in monochronic cultures relationship is secondary, achieving the task within the time frame is important, but in polychronic cultures the response is based on nature and relationships of circumstances, no matter how much time they consume. And the last is that they have strong tendency to build lifetime familial relationship. In monochronic time zones, relationship is temporary because their focus is to perform the task. In polychronic, they are more focusing on relationship than on the task. That means how much time they will consume in maintaining the relationship rather than how much time should be consumed in performing the task. So, this is the role of culture when we are talking about chronomics in non-verbal communication. Now, when we are talking about chronomics, then another aspect is the mum effect. As the term implies, mum means to keep silent. This is a very general notion, right? Mum, to keep silent, but in chronomics sometimes people do experience the mum effect. That means the reluctance or failure to deliver negative information. That means finding the right time to convey any good information or finding the right time to convey any wrong information. And sometimes people tend to prefer to stay silent rather than communicating any negative information. So, reluctance or avoiding to inform or communicate any negative information is the mum effect. So, the reluctance or failure to deliver negative information is called the mum effect, which refers to keeping silent or mum about undesirable messages. So, it happens in day to day life also happens that we do not want to convey any negative information or share any negative information to with our colleagues or in any social group, and there are reasons that why that mum effect exists. Now, this involves some reasons that why this mum effect also exists when we are talking about chronomics. The reasons are in order to avoid invalidating language. For example, if any conflict has evoked in the group, then how to convey that conflict to the other persons. So, just to avoid any kind of negativity or negative information among other group members, people try to refrain from sharing those news and information because that only arouses negative feelings. So, to avoid invalidating language or any conflict, people tend to feel reluctant to share that information. Using validating language at the same time, that means that sometimes to avoid even this tendency of mum effect, then people also try to validate or use a validated language or appropriate language where the person feels recognized or accepted. Or it can be giving a conjunctive statements to make the conversation going simple. For example, I heard you correctly, you tell me more about it. That means in order to streamline any negative information or to convey any good information among the group members, then what kind of statements we are constructing in conversation, that all influences the mum effect. The more the statements are constructive or conjunctive, that means the more positive comments will be coming out, so that the real information can reach the other person in a very subtle manner. So, that is how people tend to communicate. Or it can be disjunctive statements, that is to break the conversation. Suppose two people are in flow, they are interacting with each other, and as soon as one person just breaks any negative news in the conversation, then that conversation also breaks between two people. So, depending on that what kind of situation we are into, that means identifying or recognizing the time that how we have to convey, that is the mum effect. Either to convey while avoiding invalidating language, using validating language, conjunctive statements or disjunctive statements, that all involves the influences of the mum effect. So, this is again an aspect of chronomics, that when and how I have to or I do not have to convey any information accordingly. Now, the another important aspect which is very important for an individual's survival as well, and important part of non-verbal communication is haptics. Haptics means touch. So, the touch or haptics, which has been derived from the Greek word haptikos, is extremely important for communication as it is vital for survival, where we are using our body language, our facial expressions or contraction of facial muscles and time and mum effect, different kind of time zones, then or distance, physical distance as well. Then haptics also play a major role in non-verbal communication, where touch is very important. Now, this touch is something that will define, which will give an individual the vibes that what kind of touch it was. It can be an intimate touch, it can be a warm touch, it can be a social touch, or it can be something very offensive at the same time. So, haptics or touch communication is a branch of non-verbal communication that refers to the ways in which people communicate and interact via the sense of touch. It is not that you are touching the person, that what you sense out of that touch, that is haptics, that is the study of touch, which is important in any non-verbal communication. So, social psychologists have identified some categories of haptics. That means some categories of haptics here means that in what manner or in what different situations the touch can be understood by the other person. So, social psychologists have talked about functional or professional expresses, social or polite expresses, friendship or warmth expresses, or love and intimacy expresses. So, when we are talking about categories of haptics and if we are talking about functional or professional expresses, it deals with the touch of one person to the other person for professional purpose or task orientation. For example, managers should know the effectiveness of using touch while communicating to subordinates. For example, patting on the back. This is a touch where the person will feel encouraged, recognized and accepted. So, this is a touch, an encouragement to enhance task performance, but need to be cautious and understand that how touch can be misunderstood as well. If the performance has gone down of an employee and how the superordinate or the boss or any higher authority puts his hand on the shoulder of the employee will give a strong message to the employee that your performance has gone down. So, all these kind of touches can be felt very easily by the other person. So, based on the touches, the task orientation can be explained through non-verbal communication, or a hand on the shoulder for one person may mean a supportive gesture, definitely that he or she has been recognized, while it could mean a sexual advance to another person. So, ultimately it is a sense that how we are sensing a touch by the other person, and using touch to communicate, the manager needs to be aware of each person's touch tolerance. How much and in what degree you are touching the person will define the other person's tolerance. That tolerance again will be so non-verbal in nature that you will again get to know whether the touch was accepted or not. So, this is the functional or professional express. The other is social or polite express. It is a ritual interaction. For example, a handshake. The initial connection to another person in a professional setting usually starts with a touch, specifically a handshake. So, a handshake is not only limited to professional setting also, but we do shake hands in any social situation as well, which is important to convey or initiate any interaction, that is from moving from non-verbal to verbal. So, handshake can be an important aspect of youth team sports, where handshake will give an encouragement and support to the team members, right, whereas the handshake also represents the end of game as an embodied ritual and form a intimate touch and legal gesture. For example, any game is over, any meeting is over, then also as a ritual we tend to say goodbye by shaking hand, that it was nice meeting you all. So, when we are shaking the hand as a ritual, then also it is a non-verbal communication which indicates that the meeting has ended. So, this is social or polite express which can be used in traditional or ritual interaction. The other is friendship or warmth express. It is a way that a child can express positive emotions. When we hug a child, when we hold the hand of our beloved, then what kind of touch it is? It is about love, emotion and intimacy. So, the sense that we get from that touch is friendship or warmth expression. So, touch is a way that a child can express positive emotion. For example, physical affection like hugs can serve as an overt display of love. So, this is another way of touch or sense of emotion. And the last is love and intimacy express. It is an emotional attachment when two people or couple who are involved in love affair, and the way they hold hands, that touch or sense, that touch will give them the sense of that intimate emotion or relationships. So, the primary nonverbal behavior that has the biggest effect on interpersonal relationships. So, here particularly when we are talking about love or intimacy express, that touch will actually define interpersonal relationship. If that touch is at professional space, then it will define task orientation. So, thus what we sense through a touch will define all the different kinds of orientation. So, the amount of touching increases as a relationship moves from impersonal to personal. This is very important. And when a couple is holding hands or putting their arms around each other, this is a tie sign showing others that they are together. That is, holding hands in public will give a non-verbal message to the public or other people in the social gathering that they are together, or they have reached the other level of relationship from impersonal to personal or interpersonal. So, this is how kinesthetics or body language, proxemics, haptics and chronemics play a major role in the process of nonverbal communication, where they are sending strong messages to the other person or other people in the group in a very precise and subtle manner, and those messages are very much strong, right. These are the pictures of haptics, where different kind of touch, pat on the back, handshake, arms around each other, hug and embracing. All these kind of touches gives us different messages in every different situation. So, this is the essence of haptics in human relationships or group behavior. Now, the next important thing is the context of touch. That means, in what manner we are touching the other person and what message do we derive from those contexts. So, there are 5 contexts that have been identified by social psychologists. They are intensity, that is how strong the touch is, person holding the hand very tightly or very lightly, shake hand is very tight or it is very light or mild. It all depends intensity that defines your attraction or rejection towards the other person. Duration, it relates to how short or prolonged the touch was. When two people are very much eager to meet each other, then the handshake is very strong, it is very tight, it is very stiff and strong. And if two people are reluctant to see each other, then that handshake will be very small duration of time and it will be very light. Location, that is refers to where the person was touched. Sometimes along with the handshake, the person also pats the back, which shows that two people are eager or keen to interact with each other. And if it has been touched by other person some other place, then definitely it gives some other kind of message to the other person. It can be in form of sexual advances as well. Frequency, that means represents the number of touches that happen. Two people who are keen to be together, who are keen to interact with each other more frequently, then that touch will give a message that two people are attracted to each other. And the other is instrument of touch, that means in what manner that touch has been sensed, that is through hands, through feet and other objects as well. So, these are the context of touch, that means duration, intensity, location, frequency and instrument, which will define that what was the context of touch. That means if that context was positive emotion, or it has positive emotion, or that context has negative emotion. Now, when we are talking about, just now we have talked about context of touch, then we have to find out the meaning of every touch as well. So, some psychologists have identified different kind of vocabulary for every different kind of touch. For example, any soft touch or on the back or holding hand will actually express positive effect or emotion. That is so sure. That means these touches communicate positive emotions and occur mostly between people who are in close relationship with each other, and they appreciate, they recognize, they include each other in every aspect, and they are more affectionate towards each other. So, whenever a touch has been sensed, that sense will actually evoke a response in terms of positive or negative emotion. The other is playfulness. Sometimes situation becomes very tensed, but touching the other person can make any situation or interaction very light and free from conflict. That means controlling the situation in a very subtle manner. For example, maybe in any group one person becomes verbally aggressive, but as soon as the other person tries to hold his hand in a very subtle manner, immediately the conflict can be settled down, or that aggressive tendency can be calmed down. So, this is converting any negative situation in a very lively manner through a simple touch, or it can be controlled. That means the person who attempts to influence. These touches can be further classified as compliance, attention getting, and announcing a response. For example, we want to announce something in front of the other group members, then we will try to grab their attention by touching other people around us, and we will try to bring them closer to us so that we can make this announcement. So, that means through touching the other person we can control the situation and control the audiences or the guests or members as well. And the other is ritual, how to understand that touch is a ritual. For example, greeting or departure touches, welcoming the person and giving a handshake, and while saying goodbye to the other person and again giving a handshake. So, these gestures or touches basically identify a ritual, that person has been welcomed or the person has been greeted or he has been seen off by the guest. And the other is accidental touch, which has no meaning at all. Sometimes we try to just brush with the other person, maybe in a crowd, and there is no meaning to that touch. It is just an accident or just happened just for a moment. So, these touches are perceived as unintentional and have no meaning. They consist mainly of brushes, that by chance we just collided with each other and then we part ways. So, when we are talking about the context of touch in terms of duration, intensity, location, frequency and instrument of touch, then at the same time comes along the meaning of touch, that is positive effect, playfulness, control, ritual and accidental. So, this is how nonverbal communication is a strong source to communicate with the other person while not uttering a word, right. So, this is how we have discussed about the another aspect of group communication in terms of verbal and nonverbal communication. Next is communication network. This I will continue in the next class. Thank you.